listen, if 96K 24-bit was CD, in other words, if 20 years ago they said, here's this new format called CD, it's 96K 24-bit resolution. Or if they didn't say that, but it was. And they played it for me, I'd say, oh, that's great. I still like records, everything about records, but I'd say, this is great, now new stuff that comes out, I'll take this one. I wouldn't. In fact, Robert Fine, you know who Robert Fine is? Recording engineer for Mercury, Living Presence, very famous. He's dead now, but he was a very famous recording engineer in the 50s and 60s. Even before there was digital technology. He got up in front of the Audio Engineering Society and he said, I know we're going to have a digital format soon. Please, please, whatever it is, don't adapt any format unless it's at least 100,000 K sampling, 100K sampling. We have 44K sampling. He said it's got to be at least 100K sampling. He knew that all the way back then, but nobody lived. They were in a big rush. You know why they were in a big rush? Because every format has a 20-year lifespan. We know that through history. 78's lasted a little longer, but LPs, 20 years after the LP came out, cassette started taking over. Then cassette started dipping, so then they came out with the compact disc. So they knew that they had to do something. So that's why the CD came out when it did, not because it was really ready as a format, I don't think. It's very difficult because we have so marginalized our hobby. It's not our fault, it's partly our fault. It's partly our fault because there are always people trying to prove that everything sounds the same, that none of this stuff makes a difference, and they want to do double blind tests. And you audiophiles hear things that nobody else hears. You know all those stories. And so the average consumer doesn't know about this hobby. They have no way to hear it because there are hardly any stores left. And when they read about it in the mainstream press, what do they say in the mainstream? They always write the same story in the mainstream press. Joe Schmo has a $100,000 stereo system and 5 records. And he plays those 5 records over and over again when he could actually hire the Copenhagen Symphony to play in his house every weekend for the next 20 years. And it would cost him less money. They write the same stupid story. That we're buffoons, that we don't know what we're talking about, that all this stuff sounds the same, we're stupid and we waste our money. I don't know how you counter that except for dragging people into your house and saying, listen to that, do you hear that? That's the only way to do it. I was interviewed by a website called Gizmodo. You ever hear of that website? So Gizmodo called me and said, we want to do a story on audiophiles. Now I know what they really were saying was, we want to do a story that goofs on audiophiles and that shows them to be really stupid people who spend all this money on expensive gear and it all doesn't make any difference. I knew that's what the story was about. So I said, okay, I'll talk to whoever. So the kid calls me, kind of a smug, cocky kid, you know. And I said, I'll talk to you, but I want you to come over first. You've got to come to my house and we'll talk. Where do you live? So he didn't live too far away. I said, take a train, I'll pick you up at the train station. So he came over and he brought his MP3 player because he was going to prove to me that it sounded as good as my stereo. Yeah, I mean, that's true. They read the comments on these websites. Oh, MP3 sounds just as good. So he comes in, he says, well, what's all this stuff? He said, forget about what the stuff is, sit down in that chair, I'm going to play some music for you. So I didn't play him the Eagles, and I didn't play him Jennifer Warnes, and I didn't play him Patricia Barber, and I didn't play him all this audiophile crap that they play at these shows. Any place around the world, around the whole world, where you go to a hi-fi show, they play the same crap. And nothing wrong with the Eagles, nothing wrong with Patricia Barber, nothing wrong with Jennifer Warnes, but why should I go travel halfway around the world to Italy to hear Jennifer Warnes sing Famous Blue Raincoat? I don't want to hear that anymore. I want to hear just music that Italians like. You know, what do they like? Let me hear that music. So the kid comes and sits down, and I said to him, do you know the French synth group Air? And he goes, yeah. I said, well, I'm going to play you Cherry Blossom Girl on vinyl. He goes, that's on a record? He says, why would you want it on a record? It's synth music. I said, just sit down and let me play this with you. And I put it on my turntable, and I put the song on, and within about 10 seconds he's going, in 30 seconds spit was coming out of his mouth, and he's going, involuntary noises. I thought he was going to drop dead. When the song was over, he went, that's not what I was expecting. There was music coming right from there. There's no speaker there. And I didn't even hear the speakers. The speakers weren't there. There was this picture there. And I heard all these instruments I never heard before. And even the instruments I knew, like when the sound would go away, it would sort of trail off and disappear. I wasn't expecting that. What is that? He literally, I blew his mind with that one song. And then we spent the next 3 hours just listening to music. And then I told him what was in my system. And he wrote a great story called Why We Need Audiophiles. Not audiophiles are idiots, but why we need audiophiles. That's what we need to do. We need to engage these people that think we're crazy.